It is a rough day to be an Auburn Tigers fan, but the best player in the transfer portal is coming out of that program, and it's Cam Coleman.
You are Locked On College Football with Spencer McLaughlin, your daily podcast on all things college football. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Locked On College Football. I'm your host, Spencer McLaughlin. Thank you all so much for making this your first listen or your first view every day. It is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, the number one sports podcast network out there. Thank you all so much, especially my everydayers, for helping make that the case. Penn State has got a new defensive coordinator. Big splash there. Zach Seyko of Locked On Nittany Lions will be here. We'll have Jay Stevens of Locked On Buckeyes. How Miami can pull the upset there. Jam-packed on a Tuesday episode of the show, brought to you by our friends at Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code Locked On College for $20 off your first purchase. $20.
$20 off.
$20. I'd like to have $20 in my pocket right now. So Zach Blackerby would love to have Cam Coleman playing for his favorite football team, the Auburn Tigers, but That's not the case anymore. Zach, he intends, according to reports, to enter the transfer portal when it opens on Friday. He immediately becomes, I think, the consensus number one player in the portal, regardless of position. That's how I see it. That's how every recruiting service sees it. He is one of the biggest recruits in Auburn football history, and yet, after 2 seasons, he will go and play his football elsewhere. What happened here, Zach?
Yes. I mean, obviously, you go into this this new era with Alex Golesh, and you kind of wonder, all right, how much of the roster are you going to hold on to? You retain DJ Durkin, a defensive coordinator, to hope keep some of that retention going. Alex Golesh, one of the first things he said to Auburn fans at his opening presser was the current roster, the guys on the roster are the priority. And since then, you've just heard report after report of guy entering the portal, and then them being tied to an inflated contract or what they're asking for is too much, and they're not going to pay it. A shock to the system to fix the culture at Auburn. The Cam Coleman thing, I don't think was that, Spencer. I think they went into negotiations with Cam Coleman willing, ready, able to spend what it took to get him to be an Auburn Tiger. And for whatever reason, as of right now, it appears that you were losing that battle. Whether it's A&M or Texas or Georgia or Florida or Alabama, they all have ties in different ways to Cam Coleman. I mean, he probably looked around. He's like, I don't know any of these people. And so it's like it's high school recruiting all over again, right? There's not an incumbent in this situation because Auburn is going to be totally different next year than they have been under Cam Coleman. So not ideal. You definitely wanted some positive momentum going into that Friday portal opening holiday that I think we should all celebrate each and every year now because it's going to be so busy. But yeah, been a crazy start of the week for sure.
Some people celebrate New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. We celebrate new portal year here at the Locked On Network. That's the way we roll. So is this an indictment at all, in your view, on Alex Golesh, who just got hired?
I don't know. I don't think there's enough information to be fully prepared on that. I mean, I've talked to folks that seem clear that it's not money, that it's fit. So I guess you could pin it on him of, is he selling a vision strong enough? Whoever your quarterback is, Deuce Knight's status is kind of up in the air. And then, Auburn's the favorite to land Byron Brown when he's expected to enter the portal on Friday. Was that part of the pitch? Was it something else? Is it his system that hasn't really garnered a ton of NFL receivers other than Jalen Hyatt, who's just been okay in the league? Is that being used to negatively recruit Cam Coleman? I don't know, Spencer, because once again, some of this is tricky, right? Because you're in a spot where you can only lose guys. And I don't know as far as how to feel about Golesh's first, full month of I guess his first full month on the job until we see who he brings in the next 2 weeks.
So Coleman's 2 years at Auburn, to me, feel like glimpses of his full potential. Like on the whole, we've seen a lot of glimpses, a lot of flashes, but his quarterbacks have been a revolving door of Peyton Thorne, Jackson Arnold, Ashton Daniels, and there was a sprinkle of Deuce Knight in there as well, right?
Mercer.
So
yeah,
it's a lot of different guys.
Don't forget, Peyton Thorne got benched for Hank Brown for 2 games.
Oh, yes, and Hank Brown. Yes, cannot forget the legendary Hank Brown. I think Cam Coleman can go somewhere with a good quarterback situation. I'm just spitballing here. This is not reported. A place like Indiana, for example. Zach, I think he could go for 1,500 yards and 15 touchdowns if he is given the right circumstances.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, his ability has never been the question. Consistency, I think, has been a question because he hasn't been perfect. You know, he dropped some open passes. He had that crucial fumble that lost, that sealed the deal for Alabama in the Iron Bowl. But I mean, some of the circus catches he made, like there were several last year. I'm like, if you showed me this with no context and told me this was AI, I would believe you. It's like it goes through the defender and he somehow hauls it in. He's electric. He's incredible. And he'll be one of, if not the best players in the portal, like you mentioned at the top there, Spencer. So we'll see. All the schools that I've heard for Cam Coleman that are like been really pushing him have been SEC schools, but we'll see. We'll see. And look, Auburn's not backing down on this one. So I still think Auburn's going to do everything they can to keep him from going somewhere else.
Do you think there is a remote possibility even that happens? Because it's happened before. I don't know if it's happened with a player of Cam Coleman's caliber where he says, I'm going in the portal, I want to go elsewhere, and then explores his options and decides, nah, this is the best place for me. I've seen that happen with low-end starters, special teams guys, at lower level schools.
Right.
Like I haven't seen it happen with a player like this. Like that would be a true stunner and would be the best thing that could happen to Alex Golesh right now in the eyes of the Auburn fan base, I imagine.
Yeah, it'd be big. It would be big. You probably still have your folks who are like, well, how'd you let it get to this point? This is embarrassing. But yeah, I agree with you. And we'll see. Like, I still think I've been told that people believe that Auburn believes that their offer will be the most competitive. But I say this on my show a ton. There's a million reasons why somebody wants to, enter the portal and get a fresh start. Is it a position coach thing? Is it a scheme change? Is it just wanting a fresh start? Is it wanting to win a championship? Like, I do think Auburn has a chance to be better under Alex Golesh, but in 2026, I'm not expecting Auburn to compete for a championship. And so all these schools that we mentioned, most of them, I know you mentioned Indiana, then, Texas A&M, Georgia, Alabama, like all those schools are going to be in it in the discussions going into the season. So,
boy, Alabama would just be a kick below the belt, wouldn't it?
Be devastating. It would be awful. They hired Derek Nix, who was the OC when he was really balling those last few games. He's their wide receivers coach now. And then Marcus Davis obviously was, the guy who recruited him, Auburn's wide receiver coach. He's at Florida. So there's a lot of ties all over the place. He was committed to Texas A&M before he flipped to Auburn. A&M seems to be in it. So all of those would be good fits for different reasons.
And Florida also lost Eugene Wilson, not Dallas Wilson, but Eugene Wilson, another former five-star receiver, to the portal recently as well. So Zach Blackerby, Locked on Auburn, with the latest from, what I imagine is not as excited of a city in the great state of Alabama as they would like it to be at the moment. You know who is excited? My guy Zach Seyko of Locked on Nittany Lions, because they just made...
Seyko.
Yes, good for Seyko and good for Penn State. Here's why we're saying that. First, this episode brought to you by our friends at Game Time. There's nothing like college football season. Tailgates, packed stadiums, being right there in the middle of it all, which includes the playoff, by the way. The energy, the bands, the moments you remember forever. But actually getting tickets to these games, that part used to be frustrating with long queues, logins, and prices jumping at checkout. Emphasis on used to be, because now there's Game Time. Game Time gives the advantage back to fans. It's the easiest way to unlock amazing college football tickets and experiences in just a few taps. I've used Game Time to go to a college football game, to go to a college basketball game, to go to a comedy show, and guess what? I save money every time. I had a great process to get it onto my phone. It was nice and easy. I compared the prices that I paid with Game Time to other ticketing sites, and every single time I realized, wait, I'm saving money with Game Time. So of course, I'm going to keep using it. And they got everything you want. You're going to know what to expect of your seat. You're going to know how much you're paying up front. Game Time is the way to go. Take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Groundhog's Day in the coaching carousel is here because Penn State has gone out and made a big splash with their defensive coordinator hire. How about that? Zach Seyko, Locked On Nittany Lions, is here. So Jim Knowles is at Tennessee now, which means D'Anton Lynn, former Penn State defensive back, has decided to leave USC for the same position at Penn State. I think this is a great move. I've been a D'Anton Lynn fan for the last several years. He was at UCLA before his time with the Trojans for the last couple seasons, where he helped them make huge strides. In the 2 years before he got there, they were allowing 34 and 29 points per game defensively. He has been 25 points per game and below over the last couple of years. He's recruited very well, been a part of USC's #1 class in the 2026 class. I think this is one of the first big wins of the Matt Campbell era, Zach Seyko.
It might be the biggest win within the next 1 to 2 years, right? In terms of personnel and everything else. We'll see how roster retention goes. But yeah, Penn State fans should be, I've already said this, ecstatic. This was your top target. This guy, he's from Penn State, so good luck getting him away from the Nittany Lions now that he's back at his alma mater. You're able to get some, USC's in the Big Ten now, right? That's not a secret anymore. And you get you poach away from another program that is going to be going after a Big Ten conference champion, is now starting to peak in the Lincoln Riley era. So this kind of knocks USC back a step, at least in my opinion. USC fans and other USC people don't think so. They think that, hey, here's a chance for us to elevate. Lynn took USC from bottom 10 to top 50. Okay. This was going to be a project. Spencer, correct me if I'm wrong, but Lincoln Riley defenses haven't routinely been good. Even when Oklahoma was in the college football playoff, all those games were, how many points can we score in 60 minutes? Okay. So Lincoln Riley defenses had never been good. The fact that D'Anton Lynn took them from bottom 10, give or take 120th in the nation, to 55th in 1 year, but then the progress slowed. It went from 55th to about 47th. Okay, I can understand the concern because year 2 was supposed to be an even bigger jump. But again, what were your expectations? You went from basically dead last to actually somewhat respectable.
Yeah, I think the progress at USC was really good. And I think this is a good move. A guy that knows the conference, a guy that has proven himself on and off the field, a guy that knows Penn State. I think the only way that he would leave this spot is if he got a head coaching opportunity somewhere.
Yeah.
Now, here's the other angle I want to look at this from. This is a pretty notable loss for USC at a time, as you mentioned, where they feel like they're reascending, that they are trending towards being a legitimate Big Ten title contender.
They think they're ready.
Yeah, they think they're ready for it. Well, now they have to go find a new defensive coordinator. I don't know who's left in the coaching carousel because this is happening so late in the cycle relative to a lot of other coaching changes out there. I'm sure there'll be options. I would have looked at Rob Aurick, frankly, the San Diego State defensive coordinator, but he already got hired by Nebraska. And I think if you were him, between USC and Nebraska, I'd rather go to USC. Not that Nebraska is a bad place to be. It certainly isn't. But I don't know who USC is going to go out there and get. Do you think that it's a sign that things are not as good as they appear in Los Angeles that D'Anton Lynn left? Or do you think this is one of those situations where this is the only defensive coordinator job he was going to leave USC for?
So I'm fresh off of a conversation with Locked On USC and Mark Culkin, the host. We know Mark Culkin very well. USC, from USC's perspective, the general perception, the majority, I'm not saying it's staggering, but the majority, maybe that's just 51%, are okay with this move. They think that Lynn was actually holding them back and they can benefit from a new defensive coordinator. Again, Penn State, this was Penn State's top target. The Nittany Lions, Matt Campbell, they aced this move. D'Anton Lynn, look at his time at UCLA. He had the number one rushing defense at UCLA. The number one rushing defense, a fringe top 10. They were 11th in terms of total defense. They were third in the nation in sacks because Mark was telling me, well, he doesn't really like to blitz and the pass rush was pretty weak. Okay, then why were they third in the nation the year before he showed up at USC, before he made, a hop, skip, and a jump over to the Trojans, that he had the third best pass rush in all of the nation while with the Bruins? So for USC, here's the perspective that I'll add, because Mark said, well, I don't know that Lynn can keep up with the pressure of the USC job. Okay, that's fair to say, but let's reframe that for a moment. What if Lynn knows that this might not work out in the end? Lincoln Riley's on the hot seat, and you're going to have plenty of job security at Penn State. Matt Campbell's not going anywhere. All right, this is Penn State starting over. Okay, they are starting over. I don't think they're going to be 6-6. I think they're going to be much better than that. They will be competitive. This will be a respectable team because of moves like this. But if USC doesn't make the playoff, if you're D'Anton Lynn, do you want to be looking for another job? You kind of strike while the iron's hot here. Your alma mater comes calling again. You're not so sure that Lincoln Riley is the long-term solution at USC because of what's on the horizon. Make a move. Go get yourself some job stability at your alma mater.
I see that. USC's got the potential to be a much better team in 2026 than Penn State. I think
absolutely. I think they're one of the favorites. They're one of the favorites.
That's where I can't, in the Big Ten, you mean?
Yes.
That's where I can't shake that this is still a blow. I get USC fans will try to put a positive spin on it. Every fan base does. There is some element to this. If D'Anton Lynn said, I would rather go start something new than continue what I've built for the last couple of years, which was substantial, both on and off the field.
With the number one recruiting class.
That's not a great look if you are USC. I cannot shake that thought, even though there's the alma mater connection. I get it. But especially if USC goes out and makes a somewhat underwhelming hire, I think that it's a really bad look for Lincoln Riley and USC, and demonstrative of how far they still might have to go, at least in D'Anton Lynn's view, to be a true Big Ten championship and college football playoff contender. I don't know what the early list of candidates looks like for USC, Seyko, but
I can give you some names because I just talked about it.
let me throw one at you, because this is the caliber of name, at least, that would tell me, okay, USC is going to be all right. If they were somehow able to pull Jim Leonhard down from the Denver Broncos back to USC, he's been in the Big Ten at two different spots. He's been at Wisconsin. He's been at Illinois. He's very well respected in both the NFL and college circles. If they pull somebody like that, I will soften my stance on, boy, that's a bad look for USC. But if they get someone that you go, meh, or if they're just promoting from within, I will double down on, boy, that's a bad look for Lincoln Riley and the Trojans. But early names that you've heard for the USC defensive coordinator spot.
Well, again, I just talked to Mark, so it's top of mind right now. If they go hire from within, Doug Belk, who has been a defensive coordinator once upon a time, he's the secondary coach. That would make sense. It's not, again, like you said, it's going to be underwhelming, but it would actually be a pretty smart move. Jim Leonhard has been consistently on USC hot boards. I'll give a Penn State relative name. Al Golden. He's a former Penn State coach. Golden, who's now at the Cincinnati Bengals. If that's been a disaster for Cincinnati.
He just left Notre Dame, though. I don't know.
And he was one of the best defensive coordinators in college football.
That's true.
NFL's a different animal, so it would Big Ten. Okay, Notre Dame is a Big Ten type of team, right? We would all expect them to join the Big Ten if they ever joined a conference. Al Golden, he would have been one of Penn State's main targets if he happened to be the DC at Notre Dame still. So let's not pretend, because he's had one of the worst defenses at Cincinnati, that he wouldn't work back in the college ranks once again. So, and everybody, here's the thing though, USC fans or people on social media say Pete Kwiatkowski from Texas, who was just fired. Mm. That's the main name that keeps popping up. And that's a good name. That's a really good name. I'm not sure why Texas fired him, because I'm not following Texas every single day. But if USC lands him, and it seems like that's the main priority here, that would be a potential name that I say, okay, that's a really good hire and could get your elevation that you're expecting.
Yeah, I agree with you there. If it's somebody like Leonard or if it's Kwiatkowski, then I'll soften. But at the moment, I don't think it's a great look for USC. But it's a great day for Penn State and Matt Campbell. Zach Seyko, Locked On Nittany Lions. Anytime we get him on the show, that's a great day for us here at Locked On College Football. By us, I of course mean me, because I'm a one-man wrecking crew. But remember actual football? We're going to talk about that next. Here's how Miami can upset Ohio State. First, this episode brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Fridays already feel different during basketball season, and FanDuel is making them even better. Every Friday night, before the game tips off, FanDuel gives fans a new way to kick off the weekend with NBA Happy Hour. NBA Happy Hour is your official pregame, a limited time window where special offers drop right inside the FanDuel app before the action starts. And if you want to bet on college football, guess what? FanDuel is the place to do it, because every game that I talk about here on the show, when I give what I should just worst bets of the week, which you should absolutely fade, because I have been colder than the Antarctic so far this season, FanDuel's where I'm going for the lines. Why? Because they got everything I need. Point spread, point total, money line, prop bets, futures, everything is there. If you knew halfway through the season Fernando Mendoza was going to win the Heisman, boy, you would have had quite the correct wager. But FanDuel is the place where you want to go for all of that. College football, NFL, NBA, FanDuel has it all. So before tip-off, check the FanDuel app. See what's dropping during NBA Happy Hour every Friday from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern. A little basketball, a little action, and a whole lot of Friday energy. That's NBA Happy Hour only on FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NBA. How does Miami get it done? They study the Big Ten championship tape. That's what I would do if I were Mario Cristobal. What would Jay Stevens do of Locked On Buckeyes? Oh, look, he's here to discuss. So, look, I'm confident. The betting market also setting the line 9.5, according to our friends at FanDuel. Pretty confident that Ohio State wins. But let me just play devil's advocate here, Jay. Indiana did not win that game going nuts on offense. They didn't run all over the Ohio State defense. They won it with physicality and situational football in a low-scoring slugfest. And they also got after Julian Sayin, kept Bo Jackson under 100 yards rushing. And I go, well, hold on a minute. That Miami front four and front seven writ large, but especially the front four, one of the best in college football. Got maybe the best edge in Ruben Bain. Is there a formula there for Miami to try and copy-paste the game that was played in Indianapolis into this quarterfinal game?
There would be if Tegra was starting at right guard, if Hartline was calling the plays. You could duplicate that same formula and still try to win the game. But when you have Ryan Day as your offensive play caller, and you have the best right guard starting in this game, which is game 14 for the Buckeyes, because Tegra is hurt, you can't use the same formula in this game, because I think Ryan Day is going to do some different things than what Hartline did in the Big Ten title game. I don't think even though it was a 13-10 game, Ohio State had multiple chances to score 13 or 16 or 19 points because the Buckeyes defense did everything they needed to do. You hold a team to 13 points, you think Ohio State's offense is going to score at least 14, even if it's a lower scoring game, at least 14, but they could not do it. Even before the missed field goal by Jaden Fielding, Sayin missed Bo Jackson, which would have been an easy first down, could have been a touchdown on that play. If they just fix some of the little details in that game, even if Miami tries to do the same blueprint and tries to follow that blueprint that Indiana laid out in that game, I think Ohio State learned their lesson in that game, and they won't make those same mistakes again.
I don't think Miami wants this game to be a shootout. I don't think they're going to take the approach that a lot of, inferior rosters, I'm not saying Miami's vastly inferior to Ohio State on this level, but when a G5 or an FCS is going up against a higher level opponent, a lot of times what you see the game plan be is basically, and my gamers out there in the audience will understand this. They'll turn on chew clock. They'll run the play clock down. They'll say, we want as few plays run in this game as possible. We don't want the other offense on the field a whole heck of a lot. I don't think Miami has to make it look like that. I don't think they want both of these teams even over 20 points to try to win the game because, Carson Beck delivered the game-winning drive on the road against Texas A&M. That's got to give you a lot of confidence if you're a Miami fan, without question. He also threw for 106 yards. And Texas A&M has a good defense. Ohio State has a better defense. I don't think Miami's going over 21 points. I think that's the upper limit of what they can score. But as Indiana showed, it doesn't mean they can't win the game. It just means that I think there's way more pressure on that Miami defense to show up and hold Ohio State to field goals to keep this thing from getting that. If Ohio State jumps out to a 14-3 lead, I don't think that's where Miami wants to be.
Oh, no. I don't think any team, even that Indiana, if Ohio State's up 14-3 against Indiana, they have to change their philosophy. They have to change what they want to do. Miami doesn't want to be there either. I think Carson Beck doesn't get the credit he deserves for how good of a quarterback he is. I'm not saying he's amazing, none of that stuff, but he has grown over the past few years. Yeah, some of his Georgia days weren't the best, but he has grown. He has developed into being a better quarterback than what he is getting credit for. But even in this game, he hasn't gone up against a defense like Ohio State's. I will say this, Spencer. Ohio State's D-line is not better than Miami's, and I think this offensive line they're going up against in Miami is going to be the toughest they have faced all year. So Miami's offensive line is really good. They're also trying to prove that they are a solid and very strong D-line against what Miami has tried to put out there. So the Buckeyes defense in this one, these guys already have a chip on the shoulder because they're Ohio State, and they have not gotten the credit all season for what they have done defensively. I don't get it. I don't understand how they have done some historic things in this year, and they are still not getting the attention that most – if Georgia was doing this, if it was Alabama, people at ESPN, these other networks would be pounding the table for how great they are. Ohio State's defense isn't really getting that, so I think that's another reason why there's a chip on the shoulder of guys like Caden Curry, Cade McDonald, and others to – prove to everybody on this stage that they are better than what people think they are. And so while Carson Beck is a good quarterback, I think he'll struggle in this game. And then you add in Arvo Reese, Caleb Downs, and others, it's going to be really, really hard for Miami to move the ball.
I think the reason you have that perception about Ohio State's defense is they just won the national championship.
Yeah.
Yesterday on the show, I did my pressure ratings to win this week for the 8 coaches, and Pete Golding was 8th for me because I can't place huge expectations on that guy at all. But for me, Ryan Day is 7th because if he loses this game to Miami, I mean, it'd be surprising to me, certainly disappointing in Columbus because I think they've got a real chance to go and repeat as the national champions here. But I don't think you would be asking major questions because you're not going to wonder if Ryan Day can beat Michigan. You're not going to wonder if Ryan Day can win the big game. You're not going to wonder if Ryan Day is really the guy. You're not wondering any of that because we just watched it all come to fruition last year. You just go, oh, well, that didn't come. It didn't happen this year, but that doesn't mean it's not going to happen again in the future because we know he's done it before. But yeah, and to the point that I made earlier about, obviously nobody wants to be down 14-3 in a game, unless you're Texas A&M. I think Miami was very strategic in not getting out to a lead. Because if you notice, what was Texas A&M's best offensive drive in the game? They didn't score a touchdown, but what was their best drive? Once they got down 7 points. I think that was just big brain coaching from Mario Cristobal. He's out there going, boy, if we get a lead on these guys, they're going to kick it into high gear. We gotta wait. We got to wait until the very end on that front. But if Miami wins this game, Jay, what has Ohio State failed to do come Wednesday night?
Execute in short yardage areas, not put the ball in the end zone, in the red zone, that is, and they don't protect Julian Sand. It's the same thing that happened against Indiana. You were bad in short yardage areas. You didn't punch the ball into the end zone when you got into the red area, and you didn't protect the quarterback. If the defense does the same things it did against Indiana while also allowing some occasional big plays, Becker and Surratt scoring on Matthews Jr., if those same plays happen again and the offense does what it did in Lucas Oil Stadium, that's the formula for Miami to win. The thing that I think is going to be different. And I said it earlier at the beginning when we started talking, Spencer. When you get Ryan Day calling plays and you give him about a month to prepare for one game, it's going to be crazy. It's going to be hard for Miami to really know what Ryan Day is going to do from the jump. Because all season long, Ohio State's been running 12, 13, 14 personnel, more 13 and 14 personnel than what anybody should run when you have Smith, Tate, and Ennis on the roster. It doesn't make any sense. Now, if Ryan Day comes out and does 13 and 14 personnel, and he's doing it to bait Miami into doing something crazy, and then he rolls out later on to the game, three receivers, and he splits Max Clear out wide, that's a chess match in the advantage for the Buckeyes. And so while Miami has a blueprint to win the game, I think there's a real advantage for Ohio State having Ryan Day calling the plays because nobody knows what he is going to do with this roster.
Jay, they are out there saying in the wilderness that Ryan Day is desperate for revenge against Mario Cristobal after their last meeting came in Columbus in 2021. That so many people are saying this, Jay. I've gotten hundreds of comments throughout the week, dozens of direct messages to that particular effect. Do you think Ohio State wins the game? I think they win. I'm taking Ohio State to cover, which feels kind of crazy, and I stink this year picking games against the spread. I have regressed significantly from last year, but you know what? I'm sticking to it. Give me Ohio State 20, Miami 10, 21-10. Nope, I'm going to bump it up 23-10. 23 that feels right. Right there. 23-10. I think Ohio State wins and covers.
I think Ohio State wins and covers. And Spencer, I've laid it out like this. Well, I'll tell you my score prediction is Ohio State 24, Miami 13. And in my mind, I'm thinking like this. Will Miami score more than the 13 points that Indiana scored? I don't think they can.
No.
Not against this defense. Will Ohio State score at least 14 points in this game? I think they do. So regardless of what the spread is and what the over-under is, I really don't even care. I don't think Ohio State scores under 14 points against Miami. And I don't even like Miami may score 13 in the last seconds on a field goal. Like it may be that hard for them to get to that mark. But 24-13 seems like a comfortable approach when it comes to score prediction for this game, because while I am very confident in Ryan Day calling the plays, there's still the uncertainty in me knowing how Ryan Day is going to utilize this offense. He's played the long game all season. He even did it in the Big Ten title game, taking out his two-star receivers in moments where they could have been on the field to make sure Ohio State won a Big Ten title. And maybe he's going to play the long game again, realizing we win this game, we get it comfortable, we can kind of rest a little bit and coast. We got a game the following Thursday. And so if he's playing a long game, I don't think you're going to see Ohio State put up 50 against Miami. I'm not saying they can't. I just don't think Ryan Day even cares about that. Ryan Day is thinking about, we play this game, we win. We play the following Thursday, we win that, and then you go on to play the national championship, and that may be where they put on a show. I am not sure. But the Buckeyes win 24-13. You get a good game out of Sand. You get a stronger game for the Buckeyes offensive line. And I think the Buckeyes D-line has accepted the challenge to try not to get held. It was very clear, Spencer, when you watched the Big Ten title game and anybody else, that there were obvious holding calls that were missed in that game. I remember
it's a theme in the Big Ten. Big Ten crews do not throw holding flags.
I don't understand it, and it goes both ways. Not just Ohio State guys getting held. Yep. Indiana guys are getting held too, and the rest weren't calling it. I get calling it both ways, but sometimes you got to call one. If a guy's getting tackled, I don't care what color jersey he's wearing. You got to call it because they get reviews after games as well. Not just the players and the coaches that watch film. The referees watch film, and they will get scrutinized and criticized for missed calls. So
behind the scenes,
yes.
Of course. Yes. They don't have to actually come out and tell us, hey, we missed these calls, we screwed it. Because that would be, that'd be too far. That's just asking a lot there, Jay. Jay Stevens, Locked On Buckeyes, great as always. Appreciate everyone listening. I'll see you next time. And until then, hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day.